Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tech It to the Bank. My name is Stefanie Hammond, and I am part of the head nerd team here at Enable. And I'm the head nerd that is responsible for MSP growth and all things sales and marketing related. The goal of these coaching videos is to provide, kind of bite-sized sales, marketing advice, bite-sized guidance that you can immediately incorporate into your MSP that will hopefully pay off with either new leads or new signed contract clients at the end of the day. We are continuing our multi-part training series focused on helping MSPs develop their marketing operating system for their business. Once again, being joined by Wingman, a couple of the founders there, Mark Copeman and Dave Sutton. Very happy to have you with us today because this is what we do. We deal with MSPs, helping them with their marketing, the ones that are struggling with their marketing. So very excited to be having this video series and continuing this video series with you gentlemen. So we are into our final puzzle piece. Let me share out our slide here. Bring it back up, the one that we've been talking about through the course of this video series. So we're finishing our review. We're finishing our deep dive of the 8 different jigsaw puzzle pieces that MSPs need to focus on to help them get that real traction when it comes to their sales and marketing efforts. So we're talking about the final piece today to help contribute to an MSP's marketing success. And that is how MSPs should be evolving their business. So not only are they scaling smartly, but they're also scaling profitably as well. So that's a big concept, I think, for MSPs to get to the point where, all right, I've done all these things. Do I just stop now? No, you have to continue to evolve your MSP forward. So maybe talk about what that whole concept means for MSPs.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in if I may. And Stephanie,
Yeah.
you're a book lover. I know that, and I know you'd have read the E-Myth multiple times.
Yep.
And I think it's worth just remembering that book just for a moment, because it's very, very easy. Dave and I are business owners. We've been doing this a long time. I've done it in a few different businesses, and it's very, very easy to spend all day working in the business if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And it's much, much harder to be working on the business, to be at that 30,000 feet level. And the reason for this jigsaw piece really is to continue to remember that nothing stands still. And if things aren't working for you, or even if things are, but they could potentially be working better, you've got to be continuously evolving how you look at the business. You can do that in lots and lots of different ways, and we'll perhaps touch on 2 or 3 of them. This is all, by the way, absolutely focused and still related to sales and marketing. So we wanted to add this to our little model, just to remind people, just to have one eye on the future. And I'm going to quickly reference a friend of the 3 of us, Mr. Paul Green, who always talks about the need to have fun in business as well. And I really respect that when he talks about that. I think he's absolutely right. So, it's all well and good working hard. You've got to have fun, and you've got to have an eye on the end goal as well. And so I think that's another big sort of topic for discussion around this being evolving area. Otherwise, you put the blood, sweat, and tears in for 30 years with your head down, and you may not necessarily get the sort of exit that you're looking for, which would be a terrible shame. So that I think probably puts this into context. I suspect Dave will throw something else in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's what Mark was saying about the end goal, but whether that end goal is to exit the business in 3 years, or it's to sort of peel yourself away from operations, say, for example, 70% or 80% of your daily life, typically as an MSP owner manager, is still getting dragged into everything technically. So it might be getting to a point where you can, afford to have that sort of head ops person that takes that pressure away from you, so you can focus on, being the entrepreneurial person and driving the business forward. But whatever those things are, typically it comes back to money. And in our last episode, where we were talking about the price or the value per seat, if you do your homework on figuring out those numbers and what the end goal is, be it in 12 months time. I don't want to be hands on with another ticket, or Mark and I had similar goals a little while ago, that we would have a project go through our business that neither of us were involved in. And then you really can see that you're maturing as an organization and
Yeah.
making yourself more attractive to be purchased. If an exit like that is your end goal, you've got the systems and processes and an infrastructure that's not wedded to you as the owner, having to have your hands in the company all the time. So that all comes back to money. Do you need to hire someone so you can have more fun, you can drop to working 4 days a week, you can take yourself away from projects, or an ambition of leveling up to a particular point where you want to deliver a new product or service, or you want to launch a separate business on the side. Maybe you've had an idea for this software product for years, or you've built something as an MSP, which so many have, that you're now wanting to take to market. So just think about what does that look like to free you up, either entirely so you can go on a worldwide cruise and disappear for the next 18 months, or just so you can free up a day a week. What does that mean money wise? Do the reverse funnel so you can visualize what it's like to get there, and what time frame is realistic to achieving that.
And I love that. And you kind of jog my memory, because I do run an MSP sales and marketing book club. And I'm trying to think if it was the ultimate sales machine, but it's that whole idea of, are you running the business or is the business running you? And that has always resonated. When you talk about, do you work in your business or on your business? I thought that kind of little flip to, are you running the business or is the business running you? And meaning exactly what you were talking about. Can you walk away from a project and trust that your team can handle that project without you being there? And I think that gives you a really good sense as to how is your business running, and is your business able to run effectively, and maybe profitably without you being hands-on. So if an MSP's objective is to exit, they want to grow it, obviously, M&A is a big topic in the MSP industry, looking to get their MSP in place so that they can be attractive to investors. So tips on how an MSP can prepare themselves for an acquisition?
Start now, I think, is one of the best pieces of advice, and accept it's going to take twice as long as you think.
Yeah.
Well, and even longer, depending if you're thinking the short time scale, it's even longer than that. So I think that's probably the key to success. We've been involved in some advisory work from an M&A perspective, and I mean, I've been through the process a couple of times myself, and I've learned a lot. It's something you need to plan for. It's highly unusual that someone just comes along and then there's a transaction done and you're lying on a beach 6 months later. That's pretty unusual. I'm sure it goes on. But certainly in the MSP world, which we're in at the minute, huge amounts of M&A going on. So
Yeah.
for this question, we're talking about how do you prepare for exit. So
Yeah.
yeah, first of all, have a plan. I think is important, and understand the process. And quite often it could take 2 or 3 years just to get your business into good shape. So you may not even necessarily need more revenue or even need more EBITDA necessarily. It might be just about getting your act together from an accounting perspective, from a systems perspective, from an admin perspective. Maybe the contracts you've got in place with your customers are just not fit for purpose. Maybe your employee contracts are not good enough and they need to be refreshed. There could be 100 different reasons. So what you're looking to do with any form of sale is making it as easy as possible for the acquirer to do their due diligence on your business, and tick all the boxes. So you can go about making 80-90% of that happen kind of without any external advice, and just do the right thing. So start running your business. This is a great piece of advice I was given. Certainly start running your business as if you were going to sell it tomorrow.
Agreed.
I mean, that's not rocket science. We should all be doing that. But, guess what? In the heat of the moment, not everything is always neat and tidy. So I think that's really sound advice. And the other thing I'd also throw in here, because again, this is a whole 5-hour conversation, so I'll keep it really, really short. The other thing I'll throw in here is go and start to think about your potential acquirer or acquirers who may be out there. You think, you know what? these guys might be interested in what we're doing, and just start early. Go have a cup of coffee, go and have a glass of wine, and talk to people, and form those relationships, and throw it out. So you know what? Well, maybe when you buy us in 3 years' time, and see what they say. They might surprise you. You know. So I think seeking out the sorts of people that would potentially buy your business is something else you absolutely could be doing right now.
Yeah. And then when we talk about, again, preparing, the MSP for sale, obviously this is a sales and marketing uh, um, podcast focus that we're having. So what systems, what workflows should MSPs be focused on just to kind of build, their scalability in what you're doing from an operations perspective, but how do we look at that, scalability from a marketing perspective?
Well, implement everything that you've heard in all these puzzle pieces, pretty much. But yes, you've got to have, way back to our first episode when we spoke about the concept that we have of the sort of human element as well as the system element that sits outside of all of those very tactical day-to-day things that you should be doing within the MSP marketing operating system. If there isn't a CRM that you're holding your audience data on, showing all of your touch points, the KPIs from a sales activity perspective, the pipeline of intelligence that you've got around the audience that you're canvassing, then you don't necessarily have anything of value to present to a potential purchaser of, where is the business going? Where is there predictability, if anything, in a pipeline of prospects that you're nurturing? So you've got to systemize that. You've got to have data with touch points, with grading, think about all the different statuses that you're going to nurture people through to be able to show that there's something building. And the human factor for your own sanity of knowing that you're moving in the right direction and that you're getting close to your targets, but also from a potential purchaser. If it's systemized, if it's viewable on a dashboard, if you can produce reports to show, this is where we are right now. We closed these 2 clients last month. We've got 3 in the pipeline that I think might close in the next 6 weeks. And I've got, 30 more that are sat at an opportunity stage that we're just, negotiating with. Then it shows it's not just haphazard. It's not happening by accident that it may have done historically. You want to progress away from that, and that's what will make you far more attractive to your suitors.
Yeah, you will get a higher multiple if you can show your potential acquirer that you have a marketing engine going on in your business, and here is my pipeline, and this is what we're doing, as opposed to rely on referrals, and we've had a couple over the last year or two, because our acquirer wants to be able to make their money back and then some in a particular period of time. So that is an absolute fact. If you can show them that you do have that sales and marketing engine that's really buzzing, very simply, you will get a higher multiple.
And that's the whole point of this whole series, right? It's that building that MSP marketing operating system. MSPs have great processes on the technical side, but they don't so much have those processes well defined, or they're not intentional when it comes to the sales and marketing side of their business. So hence the value behind this whole series.
Something else I just want to throw in there, we spoke about exiting your MSP as though you're going to sell, but of course there'll be many in the audience that will be building to acquire. So you may well want to go and acquire other MSPs to boost your business. So why is it important for you to also have a sales and marketing machine? And that's because wouldn't you hate to buy another business and then churn those clients, maybe that are not super locked down by contracts, because there's been a gap in that communication? It's not a seamless process. So I'd consider you need to have the marketing foundations in place. You need to know who you are and how you articulate your business so you can communicate strongly and effectively with those customers that you're going to be taking on through an acquisition, to not only retain them, but grow the advocacy piece with them as you're the new kids on the block coming in and taking over the incumbent.
Excellent. And I know, nice segue with the advocacy, because we did talk about that in a previous episode. So, and in that episode, we did talk about the value around developing strategic relationships. So how should MSPs, and we'll continue that conversation in this episode, how should MSPs be developing those types of strategic relationships to help influence long-term success for their MSP?
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect question, because it's about that constant evolution, hence the name of this jigsaw piece, and it's about thinking outside the box a little bit. And if you're constantly banging your head, going down a particular path, and not getting any results, then reverse, or increasing altitude, as we like to say in Wingman, and think about some other ways of doing things. So the idea of creating relationships with other businesses, which we have touched upon during this series. But speaking with for someone that's done this constantly for the last 3 or 4 years, I cannot recommend it highly enough. And because the more relationships you can create, providing that they're symbiotic, and there's win-win, and so you're helping someone else out and vice versa, what's not to love? And it means that you can leverage something that's going on within that partner, and vice versa. So whether it be their customer base, whether it be an association of some kind that you can provide some value to through the work that you do, whether you're providing content into it, whether it be speaking or video work or whatever it may be, in return for some interest back from an audience. There's so many different types of relationship you can create. And again, sometimes.
Or other vendors that sell into the same partner base.
Oh, what? There we go. Exactly.
What's
I didn't think
next?
about that. I didn't think about that. But yeah, exactly. And look, we've known Stephanie for many, many years, but and I hope she'll back me up on this, but we're all about trying to give as well as occasionally take, because that's what makes the world go round. And so, these sorts of relationships are fantastic, because it benefits both sides. But if you are, to bring out Dave's point, doing tickets, as a business owner or somebody senior with an MSP, it's very, very hard to see the light,
Yeah.
and to even consider who those strategic relationships may be. So that's the first job, isn't it? Is to actually identify some organizations it would make sense
Yeah.
to create some relationships with. And then secondly, how do you then start to engage those people and start to make those relationships happen?
Yeah. And something that, we haven't really actually talked about in this series, when you're talking about where do I go next, how do I build? Because an MSP might be thinking, well, I don't even know where to start. The power of peer groups. I don't know, like with your customers that you deal with, but the most successful MSPs that I have ever talked to or worked with, they will tell you that they didn't get there alone, that it was through their peer networks, and being able to fall back on the advice and guidance of their peers who have been there, done that. And they've kind of given their suggestions. So I just kind of wanted to throw that part in, because I thought it tied in very, very nicely to your thoughts and sentiments on that.
We see that a lot, Dave, don't we? And it's fascinating that you can almost spot an MSP that's involved in a peer group from a mile away, because they sort of think and talk a little bit
You
differently.
do.
And I'm sure I won't always get that right, but there's definitely huge advantage to just the almost companionship before anything to do with the business side of things, and just sharing those stories. If you've had a bad day, sometimes it's just really nice to hear someone else that's gone through some similar stuff. Suddenly, it doesn't feel so bad anymore.
Yeah. But even like what Dave said, like if your head is always down in a ticket, you're not going to have that awareness
No.
of the industry. And so it's that concept of, you can't be looking at, all of your peers as being competitors, that there is a great, talking about strategic relationships, there could be some great relationships that you form there, just from a knowledge base perspective as well.
Yep.
So wonderful. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for kind of talking about what's next and providing guidance on how to efficiently scale MSP's business in the most profitable means possible. We have a few more episodes to go, even though we've kind of wrapped up the marketing operating system side of things. There's a few other elements that go into designing a well-oiled marketing operating system. We're going to be talking about tools of the trades that MSPs should be leveraging to help them with the delivery and the execution of their marketing strategy. Most notably, we'll be talking about CRMs, the best features to have that are valuable to MSP marketers. And we'll be talking about analytics again. We've talked about KPIs in a couple of other episodes. We're going to continue that conversation in the next one. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. That's what we're going to be talking about on our next installment of building your MSP's marketing operating system on Tech It to the Bank.